Hello everyone, welcome back to Nostalgia Bay, the top-rated podcast among medium-haired tabby cats called Murphy. I'm your host Anastasia, your ADHD NB, and I'm joined by Ryan, an undiagnosed cis man. Not that his cisgenderousness is undiagnosed, but everything else is.
We'll just say yeah to that.
Now, much to his dismay, this episode of the podcast is not about Murphy, but rather about my other favourite cat, Garfield.
Yeah, I don't think we could fill an hour about Murphy as much as he is interesting.
If we knew more about his backstory, maybe we could.
Yeah.
My cat was a stray.
Much like Garfield. According to what we all know is the true lore. The new Garfield film starring Chris Pratt.
Garfield was never a stray.
Why don't we argue about that later?
Okay. Before we argue about the new Chris Pratt film, we'll talk about the real Garfield. Now, Garfield holds a very, very special place in my heart. My dad gave me all of his Garfield comics when I was around 8 or 9 that I read constantly. If you couldn't tell, I am extremely neurodivergent. As a child, my two biggest interests were cats and reading, so really just a match made in heaven. Were you into Garfield at all as a kid, Brian?
Look, I guess I was, but in the paper we got, never had, very rarely had comics in it, and Garfield was only in the paper that you had to pay for. He wasn't in the one that was just free. He wasn't in the advertiser. He was in the paper you had to pay for. So I really didn't see much Garfield. I was a more Foot Rot Flats, The Far Side kind of kid.
Well, good thing this episode is about my nostalgia, so that's what really matters here.
Yeah, that's true.
Let us begin with a bit of history lesson on Garfield, starting with Jim Davis, the creator of Garfield. Before drawing the lasagna-loving cat we all know and love, Jim Davis was writing comics on a part of the animal kingdom that is just as, if not more, loved than the feline. Bugs!
Oh yeah, I know. I'm a big bug fan.
That's right. In 1973, Jim began publishing Gnorm Gnat in the Pendleton Times in Pendleton, Indiana, to very little success.
Not in New York, not the Pendleton Times in New York City. No. You're gonna do a big spit take with your drink of iced tea there. He's gonna wait for me to shut up.
How about you write my next script next fortnight, Ryan?
It's going to be longer than a fortnight to the next episode. This one's 4 months.
So much has happened. It was published to very little success, which is extremely understandable. Look, I love Jim. He genuinely seems like a great guy and a great cartoonist. But I gotta say, Gnorm Gnat is fucking ugly. In the script, I inserted a picture of the cast of Gnorm Gnat.
Yeah, I really, really encourage you to look up, if you're not driving, I'd encourage you to look up the cast of Gnorm Gnat. Oh, it's Gnorm Nat, because there's a silent G in Nat.
Yeah.
Lyman? Wait, that's
Yeah,
so one of the characters is called Lyman.
So you have the main character, which is Gnorm Gnat, which is described as straight man Walter Mitty tendencies.
What does that mean? The only thing I know about Walter Mitty is
the Secret Life of Walter Mitty from the 2000s.
Is that based on Moving on.
There's Lyman, which we will actually get into later, is actually a character from the Garfield comics. So it's very much he took that name from Gnorm Gnat, and he's like, I just liked this character's name. I'm not sure. I might actually Google this.
He figured out there's about 6 good names, and
I think he had a friend or knew someone called Lyman. That's why he did it. I'm not gonna Google it because it's gonna take some time. But I'm pretty sure he had a friend or he knew someone called Lyman.
Okay.
So he wanted to carry that on.
Yeah, and the person he knew must be just a tad insane, because that's another descriptor used by. Also, the image we're looking at, it looks like it was made by Jim Davis himself. There is Cecil Slug. Everyone else has a sentence describing them. The only descriptor is the single word for Cecil Slug, which is dumb. That poor...
Yeah. But yeah, as I said, they're really not appealing. They're like so complex details. There's so many fine lines. So with how small a comic is in that little comic section at the bottom of a page of a Pendleton, like a local newspaper, it would have been like so hard to identify.
I think I disagree. I actually really like the designs. They may not work within the context they were originally put, but I really like them. But also, the characters Drac Webb and Wench Webb look like the fly from the Mortine ads. I don't know if those are the ads that still run, but like I'm talking like late 2000s Mortine ads. Like,
is that Louis the Fly?
Probably.
Yeah. Remember when they tried to kill Louis the Fly?
Vaguely.
They had a campaign to kill Louis the Fly. It was definitely just a thing to like... It was a thing that's like, oh, we're gonna kill Louis the Fly. And then everyone like voted it. No! Do not kill the fake fly!
I now understand when my dad listened to episode 1 of this, he said how we go on tangents a lot. Anyway, we encourage you to look up the Gnorm Gnat characters. I think it shows his artistic skills. It's interesting to see that. Also, one of them has a hat, and
the rest. Oh no, 2 of them have hats.
2 of them have hats. Who's making the bug-sized clothes? You know, the law just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. So after Jim Davis finally realized that bugs aren't terribly relatable, he moved on to Garfield in 1978.
Can you imagine if Gnorm Gnat was the successful
one?
And like all the Garfield merch was replaced with Gnorm Gnat merch?
Imagine if I had... So in my house, for people that don't know, which is literally everyone listening to this podcast except for my friends, which is no one, I have 30 Garfield plushes. Could you imagine if all of those were Gnorm Gnat?
Yeah, I'd like to live in that world. I want to travel through... You see, this is why the Marvel multiverse hasn't quite explored all the things it can.
Back to Garfield.
Doctor Strange in the multiverse of Norm.
Contrary to popular belief, Jim didn't name Garfield after the US President James A. Garfield. He named it after his grandfather, James A. Garfield Davis.
Is that popular belief? Why is his grandfather named the...
I'm assuming his grandfather was named after the president.
What if his grandfather was the president? He lived a double life and all he did was tack on Davis when he played Suburbia.
I've seen a lot of people think that Garfield's named after the president, but he's not. He's named after his grandfather.
Not Andrew Garfield? His acting's so good it broke the time-space continuum.
That's the problem. Whenever I used to like search up Garfield Tumblr, because like that's how you get the best images in the early 2000s, is you like search up like, you know, Hello Kitty Tumblr. So I'd search up Garfield Tumblr to find like some cute pictures. It would just be Andrew Garfield. So annoying.
You poor thing.
Yeah. Now, everyone knows who Garfield is. He hates Mondays, he loves lasagna, but what about the rest of his friends? What's a cat without his human servant? I mean, owner. John Arbuckle adopted Garfield as a kitten and brings him wherever he goes, which is the tip of the iceberg when it comes to how much of a loser John is. Another contributing factor is John's occupation as a cartoonist. Yeah, what a loser. He draws for a living. Imagine that.
What'd you go to university for again?
Visual arts.
Oh, interesting.
John also has a dog named Odie. Originally, Odie was actually owned by John's friend Lyman, who frequently appeared in the early comics as someone for John to talk to. Which, like we said earlier, I guess he was named after that bug. But as John slowly started going insane and started talking to Garfield and Odie more often, Lyman stopped appearing in the comics, and John became Odie's owner. There's also a theory that John either murdered Lyman or has him locked in his basement, which is canonically true to a point, but we don't have time to get into that in that episode.
Canonically true?
Yeah.
Directly referenced as true?
Yes.
Oh dear.
Odie, unlike Garfield, can't speak, and is, and I say with a full heart, fucking stupid. One of Garfield's favourite pastimes is kicking Odie off tables and benches, and honestly, never gets old.
Yeah, it's the one thing that the hit film starring Bill Murray got correct.
Yeah. That's the one scene that I like, where he keeps on kicking him off the couch. That's the only scene that makes sense to me within the Garfield universe.
I like when they're on the train.
We'll get to that later. Then there's Nermal, a cute but annoying kitten. There tends to be a lot of confusion around Nermal's gender, and I know that it's hard to believe that a cartoon character can have eyelashes but not be a chick, but it really comes down to a Tweety Bird situation. Do you remember when you found out Tweety Bird was a boy? My heart shattered.
Yeah, I feel like I did, even forgot that knowledge again.
Yeah.
I don't recall ever learning that.
I found out one day, and I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah. And then, one of my friends is like, yeah, did you know that Pooh Bear's a boy? It's like, yes, I knew that.
Obviously, Pooh Bear's a boy.
Who the fuck thinks Winnie the Pooh's a girl?
Pooh is obviously a boy name.
Yeah, yeah. Only a man would name himself after shit.
Pooh Bear didn't name himself.
I guess Christopher Robin named him.
Oh, Mel Blanc voiced Tweety Bird, sorry. Sorry to our listeners, I just pulled up my phone.
That actually does make sense. It kind of does sound
obviously, he would voice everything because he's great. He's no Chris Pratt, but Mel Blanc's alright.
Again, similar to Lyman with, sort of stories being changed. Originally, Nermal was introduced as John's parents' cat, but then the plot got totally scrapped and it was just John's friend's cat that would come visit sometimes. Which seems hard to believe since John is a loser and doesn't have friends.
Such hatred for this man.
Well, he does have one friend, Liz. Liz is Garfield's vet, and for the first 27 years of the comic, John borderline sexually harasses her until they officially become a couple in 2006. Liz is such a fucking bad bitch. I absolutely love her to death. She's smart, funny, and to be honest, she could do so much better than John. But hey, I'm not here to give dating advice. I'm here to talk about funny Orange Cat.
27 years is actually crazy.
One of my favorite...
Did they date? Because I know they go on dates as, some, storylines. Did they date at any point? Was that a 2000s edition?
I'm not sure if they went on any dates in the 90s and stuff. I know that the way that they decided to, finally date was he goes on John and Liz are on separate dates at the same time. And then they, meet up and they decide to start dating.
Oh, wholesome. One
of my favorite, Liz bad bitch moments, though, is where they're at the vet and Liz is checking over Garfield and John is playing with a stethoscope and he puts it in his ears and he's like, hey, how about a date next week? And she just grabs the end of the stethoscope and just goes, no!
Sorry to our audio listeners. Anastasia just yelled a no into the microphone, much like Liz would yell into a stethoscope.
Yeah. That must have given him permanent hearing damage.
I feel like that was every time. I don't know when I was around a stethoscope as a child, but every time I was around a stethoscope as a child, they would always be like, you'll hurt your ears.
Garfield also has a lady friend, Arlene, and unlike Nermal, she is a woman. We can tell, of course, because she has eyelashes and red lipstick. Arlene is sweet, but she can also be really sassy, especially when Garfield gets on her nerves, which is quite often, especially when he makes fun of the gap between her teeth.
Yeah.
Which again, it's a cat. Cats don't really have. I don't know. It's a comic. I gotta remember that. Yeah. So now you basically met the whole gang. We can talk more in depth about the comics and its legacy. Over the years, the art style of Garfield has slowly changed. In the first year of the comics run, characters looked a lot more realistic. Garfield was on all fours, very big and round, and had standard fat cat proportions. I would know this. I'm a volunteer at an animal shelter, and there used to be a cat there called Fat Boy Slim. And let's just say he lives up to the name.
Yeah, and if you can't quite visualize the early style Garfield, if you've seen the meme of Garfield with John's pipe in his mouth,
yeah, that's a very, very early comic.
Yeah, that's pretty much the phase 1 of Garfield's design.
Yeah, especially since like I feel like smoking a pipe is very 70s, late 70s.
Yeah, it's not really a...
Like, they wouldn't have done that in the 90s or the early 2000s.
It's not something that stuck around. But yeah, that's basically the...
Yeah, so if you look, that's actually a really good way to visualize it. From the 80s to the 90s, Garfield's body became a lot smaller, with a lot more emphasis on his big belly. His tom cheeks and jowls also shrunk, and all in all, he became easier to draw. In the early comics, Garfield had a distinctive cat-shaped nose, and now it's just been reduced to a circle, which makes a lot of sense for comics and merchandise.
Yeah, when you've got Garfield was being published daily at one.
Yeah.
Like, when you've got to pump out...
It's still published daily.
Yeah, but when it's made by multiple people.
Yeah,
but
totally.
When you're just Jim Davis and you've got to draw and... Well, did he colour his own comics, or were they coloured by someone else?
Well, they didn't start getting coloured for a while. I don't know when they started being coloured.
Either way, when you got to pump out 5 to 6 to 7 comics a week, you're going to simplify that design. I know a lot of people don't like some more of the streamlined designs, but when one man's making it, you've got to do that.
Well, even if you have a small team of people making it, you want it to make sure that it's all consistent.
Yeah, and
if it's a complex design, it's less likely it's going to be consistent.
Yeah.
So yeah, you want it to be nice and simple so that everyone can draw it, so you don't actually know that it's drawn by multiple people.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so it kind of stayed that way for quite a while. It wasn't until the mid-90s that Garfield's design would change drastically again. After Jim Davis talked to Charles M. Schultz, may he rest in peace. This, if you don't know, that's the creator of Peanuts, Snoopy, another great comic. I wasn't too into it as a kid because I think it was a little bit after our time.
It's a bit old-fashioned.
Yeah. But, Snoopy's just amazing.
Yeah, no, very good.
Yeah. Charles suggested to Jim that he start drawing Garfield standing up, like Snoopy, with bigger feet, and God said, let the dogs be out, and the grippers were out. Okay, beyond feet, let's talk about the legacy that Garfield's created.
Well, before we get on that, I want to hear... You, Anastasia, your opinion on Garfield changing from a four-legged cat to standing on his hind legs, because I have heard this opinion, and I feel like you flew by it a bit there. So what do you think about...
I don't like it.
You don't like it?
I don't like it. I prefer when he's on 4 feet. The feet are too big. They're bigger than Snoopy's. I'm Googling Snoopy right now. Snoopy does not have... that bigger feet. Like, I searched up Snoopy and Garfield, and this... Sorry, I searched up Snoopy and Garfield, and this picture from Etsy of them arm wrestling came up.
Can we buy that? I want to put that on my wall.
Maybe. But yeah, his feet aren't that big. Like, they're definitely pronounced, but they're just too big. I don't like it. It makes sense for Snoopy, I guess, but I just much prefer it. I don't like it.
Yeah.
There was a reason that I didn't want to bring it up, because I didn't want to go on another big tangent.
Too bad.
Too bad. Sorry, guys. But back to the legacy. For me, Garfield has definitely influenced my sense of humour. So, to all those people who say Garfield isn't funny and was never supposed to be, nuh-uh. Seriously though, do you really think that Jim Davis would dedicate his entire career to a comic that wasn't and never will be intentionally funny? Just the idea of that makes me think of that annoying comic strip Greg hates in Diaper Wimpy Kid.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
And it's like, it was the only thing that Greg and his dad bonded over.
Oh yeah,
was hating that comic.
It was Lil Cutie.
That's so true. Yeah. And then like the creator dies, and they're so happy, and then the son takes over, and it becomes even worse.
Yeah, I think a lot of people like point to, oh, it's just I hate Mondays, whatever. There are thousands upon thousands upon. There must be tens of thousands of Garfield strips and Garfield panels. Yeah. Of course, some of it's going to be duds.
Yeah.
I think some people are such downers with like...
Yeah, I and that's what annoys me, because people say like, oh, it's just I hate Mondays. There are so many different types of jokes within Garfield comics. There's I hate Mondays, so yes, he does hate Mondays. There is the decline in him liking his birthday, because at first, like his first couple of birthdays, he really liked him because he loves cake, he loves food. But then as he started realizing how old he was getting, and more candles were on the cake, and then basically there was so many candles on the cake that it would like burst into flames, he starts hating his birthday. He doesn't like spiders. He doesn't like catching mice, which is a subversion.
I really enjoy, just on the mice and spiders, I really enjoy how Jim Davis draws spiders and mice in the comic. I really...
Yeah.
I think that is so well done. It's just like cute little drawings. I get... and also, my personal favourite style of Garfield comic is Garfield just abusing John, I think, is my personal favourite.
Yeah, well, if you guys want to know even more information about Garfield and his legacy, I really suggest you watch the 1-hour video. It's like how Garfield impacted the internet. He also did one on, the same guy also did a video on Undertale, which is also really good. And yeah, he collated a bunch of Garfield comics, and he made a spreadsheet of all the different jokes. Garfield making fun of John is the top of the list.
Yeah.
That is the most frequent joke, is just John being the butt of the joke.
And also, as a extra little bonus, another Garfield-related thing to recommend is the Defunctland episode on the Garfield ride.
Oh, yeah.
It's something I wanted to talk about, but I don't think we'll have time to talk about it today.
Yeah. Very interesting.
If we remember, we'll try to link it in the description, because it's definitely worth watching.
Yeah. Like I was saying earlier, Jim Davis caters well to his neurodivergent audience with the structured and reoccurring jokes within the comics. I was supposed to talk about the Liz comic here, but we've already talked about that, so that's one of my favourite comics. There's one comic that I absolutely loved as a kid, because like I said earlier, I used to have all these comics from my dad. And I found this comic so funny that I had to wake up my dad to show it to him. And all it was like he's like wearing John's glasses, and it freaks out John. And it's like, why are you wearing my glasses? And he's like, all the better to see you with, my dear. And that's the whole thing. And I thought that was so funny. I had to wake up my dad from his nap. We already talked about the Pipe comic as well, so that is a very iconic comic.
Now, Anastasia, I'm looking at your notes here, and I noticed that the third dot point is simply 3 words, and that being dog sperm comic. Would you care to explain that, please?
So this comic is another Liz vet comic. So again, same kind of setup. Liz is checking up on Garfield. John comes in and there's a cup on the counter. He grabs it and goes, "Oh, Liz, thanks for getting me coffee," and drinks the whole thing. Liz then turns to John and said, "Congratulations, Arbuckle. You're going to be having a healthy litter of puppies." And Garfield says, "I hate puppies." Now, what do you think was in that cup?
Well, to me, that sounds like it had dog sperm in it.
Well, apparently Jim Davis is like, "No, that wasn't Jim. That wasn't. It was it was like a fertility thing." But also, why would she have that on the counter? Because what I assume is that John took both of the pets to the vet.
Yeah.
Why would there be a fertility thing for a female dog?
Well, why would it be in a coffee mug?
It wasn't a coffee mug, it was just a regular cup.
Okay. Well, why would John do
Because John's stupid! And he drinks sperm! He drinks dog sperm!
Oh my goodness me.
So yeah, that's explaining the dog sperm comic for all of those that were eagerly wondering what that was.
I personally wasn't wondering, but I was wondering. So I'm glad you brought it up.
Last comic we want to talk about is, why do they call it oven when you in the cold food, out eat the hot food? Now, this is a very funny comic. It's literally just that single panel of just John saying that whilst getting some food out of the oven. But I am afraid to say it's not real.
No.
It's not a real comic. Jim Davis is probably one of my favourite authors, but he's not like my second favourite author, Stephen King. He was not high writing these comics. He did not write, why do they call it oven when you in the cold food, out eat the hot food. It's just a tweet.
Isn't it out hot eat the food?
I don't know. No, I have it here. I copied and pasted it here. I just read it wrong. So it is a fake comic. It's just from a tweet. It's just an edited image. But I still think it's pretty iconic.
Yeah, I think Garfield memes have almost brought on a life of their own.
Yeah.
Nowadays, especially, I would say like the "I'm sorry, John" sort of stuff.
Yeah, I'm Sorry, John. And for people that don't know, I'm Sorry, John is that's the one that's like where it basically becomes like biblical, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's grown a lot from my interpretation of it, but it's basically just it kind of kickstarted the surreal. If you're on, I don't know, let's say Reddit or whatever at the time, it kind of kickstarted like there was a very I saw a SpongeBob style one. I've seen Phineas and Ferb. Mario and Luigi. It's just kind of surreal horror.
Oh well, yeah. Well, that's how the first one started. So the original "I'm Sorry, John" started from a comic where basically John wakes up in a orange room, and then it just cuts to Garfield's face. And he says, "I'm sorry, John. I was just so hungry." So he ate the entire house.
Yeah.
Including John.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of, it became this, yeah, again, like, if you want a better...
It got a lot of traction. I'm sure if you search "I'm sorry, John," I'm pretty sure there is a subreddit on Reddit based around it. I think it's some of it is very well done, sort of surreal horror. A lot of very talented artists and animators took their unique crack at it. Yeah, so it's definitely an interesting.
Yeah, again, if you want to learn more about it, that 1 hour how the internet changed Garfield or whatever.
How Garfield changed the internet.
Yeah, how Garfield changed the internet. It actually talks about that.
Yeah.
It talks about I'm Sorry, John. So I would go to that.
Yeah. That's for your further reading. It won't be part of the test, but it'll help help you gain the bigger picture.
Don't give uni terms to me, alright? I've already graduated uni. I don't need that shit. Something that is just as, if not more iconic than the comics, is the Garfield merchandise. Annually, Paws Inc. makes 8 to 100 million in Garfield merchandise a year. Oh, sorry. I read that...
8 to 100 million?
No, I actually read that wrong. It's 800 million to a billion annually.
Jesus Christ. That's all.
Were you thinking, oh, that's a bit low at first?
I thought you said it wrong because you said 8 to 100 million. So I thought you were... That's a very wide range of numbers. So I thought you said it wrong initially. To $1 trillion. $1
billion.
$1 billion. Oh. Okay. $1 billion.
Jim Davis makes a... Jim Davis is the first trillionaire. Beside Elon Musk.
$1 billion is insane.
Yeah, annually.
Yeah, that's crazy. What's that compared to like some other companies?
You Google it.
I'll have a...
Yeah. But yeah, like, if you name it, there's Garfield merchandise of it. You got plushies. You got a couch. You got books. You got coloring books. You got activity. You got stickers. You got fucking other things that I can't think of at the moment.
I just had a quick little look up of Lego, the money they make, and so Garfield makes about a quarter of all of Lego.
Which is pretty insane.
Which is insane, considering the money Lego currently brings in. A quarter of that just being, like, essentially just being Garfield is absurd.
Yeah.
It's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, why don't we play a little game?
Sure.
You name something, I'll see if I can find Garfield merch of it.
Alright. Okay. I'll start us off with an easy one that I am aware of. Garfield telephone.
Yes, the Garfield telephone. There's actually multiple versions of it. It's just showing the standard one. Oh, there's a different one here. The Garfield telephone, and I know you brought this up for a reason, didn't you? Because of the story. For those that don't know, the Garfield telephone is actually very iconic because there was a very weird mystery in a beach in France where, for some reason, bits and pieces of Garfield telephones just kept on washing up on the shore. And they didn't know why. And it took them 35 years to work out what was going on. Because basically the way that the beach worked was it had such high tide for a long time that it blocked off this cave, and one day these two men were just exploring one night, and they found that the tide was low enough. They were able to go into the cave, and they found a massive shipping container full of the Garfield telephones, and it was just the shipping container fell off the ship and just went into this cave.
Yeah, so at some point in the late 80s, early 90s, an entire shipping container of Garfield phones fell off a ship and they just randomly washed ashore at this one town in France for 30 years.
Yeah.
It's not like a bunch of them washed up one day and then never again. They consistently washed up for 30 years.
Yeah, and they were they would end because, the sort of decay, it would just be, sometimes the telephone holder, because the specific design of this was it's Garfield laying down. You can just Google it by searching up Garfield telephone. And I do encourage you, viewers, to look at these because it's actually very interesting. But basically the design of it is that it's Garfield laying down with his eyes closed, and the phone is like his back, and you take it out, and when you take it out, his eyes open. It's very cute. I want one so bad.
Yeah, they are very cool.
But they're like so expensive now. Because, I mean
yeah,
they made so many. They still, like, there's still so many left.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they lost a lot.
I mean, it's almost 40-year-old
Yeah.
plastic technology.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Garfield car. I want to see a Garfield car.
Garfield car.
Yep, those
Yeah,
those are some Garfield cars. We got a model car of Garfield in a
Yeah, there's some...
fucking Cadillac or
There's
something.
model cars, there's, like, actual full-sized cars.
Is that a V10 Audi R8 with Garfield on the side?
You tell me, mate. I don't know. I don't know
It
cars.
is. It is a very expensive.
There's someone who got a mobility scooter and found a Garfield like ride bit, and they just put it over the mobility scooter to make a little car for their son. There is a Garfield car that has Garfield the movie, the live action movie, and there's Andrew Garfield is hit by a car in dramatic scenes while filming for his new movie from the Daily Mail.
Oh, that's equally relevant.
Yeah. All right,
Alright.
let's do one more.
What's my final piece of Garfield merchandise? Okay.
Comedy comes in threes.
It does. It does. Oh, goodness me. What's this? What's some weird shit I can think of? Garfield toilet paper.
I bet there's...
Oh, no one can see it, but I just saw how Anastasia spelt toilet. Oh, we don't have a Garfield toilet paper, but we have a Garfield toilet seat.
Yeah, there's a lot of Garfield toilet seats. There is... I think this is an Odie toilet paper dispenser where the toilet paper comes out of his mouth. His tongue.
I don't like that.
I don't like that at all.
I don't like the visual of me wiping my ass with Odie's tongue.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, no real...
Let's go. I stumped the Paws ink.
Yeah, the only thing is someone, like, searching it up on, AI generator.
You see, hire me, Paws Inc. You could make another $1 billion with Garfield toilet paper. That's easy money.
Although, have you ever, like, looked at printed toilet paper? It is, like, the worst quality toilet paper ever.
Doesn't look comfortable.
Yeah. Moving right along. Speaking of cash grabs, when I was first writing this script, originally we were going to talk about the 2000s Garfield film starring Bill Murray.
But we couldn't watch it. Like, every time we went to hit play, physically we couldn't press the button. Like, some otherworldly forces wouldn't let us watch that film. Or maybe it was like a physical reaction.
Maybe it was because on November 14th, Sony Pictures Entertainment released the Garfield movie official trailer, HD.
I'm glad we get it in high def.
Yeah. It would suck if it was like in 380p. 380p.
Yeah.
It was like 144.
Yeah. I'd probably make it better because then I wouldn't have to look at baby Garfield's stupid design, which I hate, by the way.
So, since that trailer has come out, we have decided to pivot and talk about it because, oh my god.
Anastasia has some incredibly strong opinions about this trailer.
I do. Frame by frame, I have incredibly strong opinions of this film. Firstly, I hate it that nowadays they have that little short supercut of the trailer and they say, Garfield movie trailer starts now. Yeah, I know. I clicked on the video.
The trailer before the trailer is something that is so... I don't know why that has begun. I want to find the person.
Yeah.
Maybe that's this generation's trailer announcer guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe that's
this summer.
This summer. I don't know.
Yeah, it's so weird.
But as we teased at the top of the podcast when I was trying to annoy Anastasia, what does it do to Garfield's lore, Anastasia?
Okay, so in the new Garfield movie, Garfield is presented as a kitten. He is a stray living by a dumpster in the rain. He sees an Italian restaurant across the street where John is eating alone. And he decides to come over, and then John lets him in. I'm sure the restaurant owners loved having just a cat in their restaurant.
Oh, yeah. Very healthy.
Yeah, so good. And gives him some food. Then chaos ensues where Garfield eats the entire restaurant.
What a wacky little guy.
But it annoys me because Garfield wasn't a stray.
Yeah.
According to Garfield His 9 Lives, which is a much better Garfield movie that everyone should watch instead of this atrocity. According to that, Garfield was born in a mum and pop Italian restaurant with his mum, who, by the way, is hot. Anyway, for a cat.
We're just going to blow right past that. Let's just keep going.
He was born in this restaurant, and he got kicked out because he ate all of the food in the restaurant, and they were going to go out of the business. So he was kicked out and given to a pet shop. Which also, how nice of them. Like, they could have kicked him out and just put him on the streets, but they actually put him... I mean, it would have been better if they put him in an animal shelter.
Yeah.
Because that's much better than a pet shop.
Well, capitalism drives innovation, you know.
Yeah, true.
Elon Musk would have pulled himself out of that pet shop. Garfield is the Elon Musk of comic... I don't know what the fuck I'm saying.
Moving on. So in that pet shop, John comes in one day looking for a cat, and as soon as he steps in the door, Garfield just immediately V-lines to John and just goes...
He didn't take the train. He didn't take the Victorian train network. He didn't take a V-line.
He took a V-line to John's face and was like, adopt me. And so he did. I don't get why they had to change the story for this.
And they also, they have the line in the trailer, which is Mr. Pratt says, and that's how I adopted John. It doesn't really he doesn't adopt John. He turns up and John, like, grabs him. You can't say... It doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. If it had have been the original story, that line would have made so much more sense. Yeah. And yeah, once this scene is over, he says that line.
Once again, I want to reiterate how much I do not like baby Garfield's design.
I've seen a lot of people say that they actually prefer the baby Garfield over the adult Garfield, which I disagree.
I definitely disagree with that. Baby Garfield, I just don't like it. I want to kick baby Garfield across
Baby
a
Garfield
room.
in the comics doesn't look like that. Baby Garfield just kind of looks like normal.
Yeah.
Because normal is like...
A kitten.
Yeah,
he looks really dumb. He looks like that little hairy thing out of Chicken Little. You know, the little alien baby. That's what he looks like to me. Shout out to Chicken Little. I'm going to say Chicken Little is a better film than what this will be, by the way.
I agree, and I don't like Chicken Little.
That's it. Podcast over.
You just rip up your script that you wrote about Chicken Little.
That was going to be the next 4 episodes.
Yeah. After this origin story, we finally hear the Chris Pratt voice for Garfield, which is...
His voice. His
regular voice. His regular voice.
Which I hate, by the way.
Yeah. It's so It's so, like, just not creative.
Yeah. I don't know what Garfield's voice should be. To me, look, I'm not the biggest Garfield fan, but I'll interject before the actual Garfield fan. Mm-hmm. I do like Bill Murray's voice as Garfield. I feel like it's pretty close to the Garfield and Friends cartoon.
Yeah.
And also, I didn't actually hate Chris Pratt as Mario.
No, I didn't either.
He did a much better job than I thought. I do not like Chris Pratt, but I think he can be a pretty solid actor and voice actor. I think he's one of the best things that in Marvel in the past 5 years.
Absolutely.
And I think the Super Mario Brothers movie was, whilst it was nothing special, it was a lot better than I thought it would be.
It's a lot better than the previous Super Mario movie.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Chris Pratt, he added a little bit of Brooklyn Italian to his voice to give Mario a little bit of flavor. And he does nothing with Garfield.
Absolutely nothing. And again, turning to the actual Garfield fan, I agree. I actually didn't mind Bill Murray's voice that much. I think that it was kind of just Bill Murray's voice.
Yeah, but
Bill also
Murray's
Bill
voice.
Murray, like, he has that kind of like voice, which is what Garfield is.
Yeah, definitely.
He's
You gotta look at his character in Ghostbusters, and you get the sarcasm.
Yeah.
And the dumb dumb, you know.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really annoying. And now I'm looking at the trailer, and I'm seeing that there's like a family photo of John, Odie, and Garfield. Why is he squinting? Like, because when Garfield's neutral, angry face, he's not squinting that much.
Yeah.
His, like, he basically has like a centimeter of eye, which again, I don't really like his design because I don't like how there isn't the definition between his eyeballs.
Yeah, it's a very like there's a line there.
But
There's I think it's to do with the animation style partially as well, but it's not very defined that his eyes are separate. I know that his eyes are connected.
Yeah,
but it's not.
But they're definitely separate.
Yeah.
It's not like Sonic.
Just looking at the 7 Garfield plushes that are in the recording room at the moment.
There's more than 7, dude.
More than 7, but his eye shape seems wrong to me. I don't like his mutton chops. He doesn't have whiskers, I've just noticed. His stripes are just stripes instead of like the little Wi-Fi symbol that he has.
Which the merchandise does do, the little stripes. If you have a look, they are the stripes.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's the merchandise.
Yeah.
Not that he should have the little Wi-Fi things.
I think it's incredible that Sony Pictures earlier this year put out. I know it's different teams and all that. But the fact that they can put out such a visually good looking and true to the source material movie as Across the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
Something that you would think would be fairly easy. Well, maybe not fairly easy. I might be oversimplifying here. I've never made a movie. But to transfer the design of Garfield over, they've got 40 years of designs to pick and choose from, and it seems like they've simplified it and then took the worst aspects from every version.
And also, speaking of Into the Spider-Verse, that's something that's based off a comic.
Yeah.
So is Garfield.
Yeah.
Why does it look like just any other generic animated film?
It feels very much like they know it's going to go gangbusters. It's going to make a lot of money, so that it looks like they're just cut costs, you know. Animation, every time I think animation is beginning another bit of a renaissance with films this year with Across the Spider-Verse and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem being such visually different films to Minions, Secret Life of Pets, Minions Minions of Fourth. I think it's a real shame. I don't know. It just makes me think that maybe we aren't out the other side yet.
Yeah, totally. And I just wish that they had have taken the route of making it look like a comic. That would have been so much fun to Yeah, make it look like a comic.
Obviously, it's cheaper these days to do 3D animation, but I feel like they could have upped. They could have thicker lines around the characters. Just make it a bit more stylized. I think overall, I don't mind the other character designs. I think Odie looks pretty good.
Yeah.
And John looks okay.
Yeah.
I think he looks fine. I think John just looks like John.
I don't get why John has like a stripy shirt though, not like a checkered shirt.
Oh.
He just has a standard blue shirt.
Well, maybe he's trying to spice things up.
That'd be a first.
And Samuel L. Jackson's Garfield's dad.
Which, again, I have a lot of opinions on. For those that don't know, Garfield's dad has been a mystery for the entirety of Garfield.
Wow.
We have met Garfield's mum, Garfield's grandfather. I think we've met some of Garfield's cousins. We have never met Garfield's dad. I'm not even sure if he's referenced within the comics. Wow. So it has been a big mystery as to who Garfield's dad is. So they better make a big deal out of this. Yeah. Otherwise, again, just ignoring all of the lore that's, like, ever happened.
I don't like... Garfield's dad suffers from the same condition as Garfield, where he stands on his hind legs.
Yeah.
I think Garfield looks fine when he does it because of his proportions. But Garfield's dad is proportioned like a gorilla.
Yeah. And also, he's like double the size of Garfield, which, like, how big is he against John?
Yeah, he's twice the size of Garfield, and he is built like a human being.
Yeah.
And I
like, I know it's a cartoon, but
yeah,
they're cats.
Oh, anyway, I think the plot of the film is going to be Garfield. The introduction is going to be cut to some nice music as we see Garfield growing up with John. Then Garfield's going to get mad with John, perhaps with the bath scene we see in the trailer, and he's going to meet his dad and then want to run away. And then while he's out with his dad's going to betray him, and Garfield's going to start to realize life with John isn't so bad. And then John's going to miss Garfield and have a couple of his own little wacky misadventures. Yeah. And then they're going to meet up at the end, and then they're all going to be friends again. And the final shot of the film will be a dolly away that zooms up into the sky as Garfield and John, and probably Odie as well, hug, but Odie might just lick John. That's what I'm going to say. We were recording this on the 10th of December, 2023. So when this film comes out, we're going to come back, we're going to do a follow-up, and we're going to see how accurate my predictions are.
I think it's going to be pretty darn accurate. What do you think the closing song will be?
Ooh.
I Hate Mondays?
Probably not. Probably not.
Yeah, maybe not, considering that song's about school shootings.
Yeah, it's probably not going to be I Hate Mondays.
Tell me why.
I think...
Sorry, it's called I Don't Like Mondays.
I Don't Like Mondays, sorry. I think it's going to be to whatever generic pop song comes out next month.
Yeah.
And there's probably going to be a Taylor Swift song in the soundtrack. So I would say if you're a fan of Garfield and you're a fan of animation, probably don't watch this.
Yeah. And again, if you want an alternative movie to watch Garfield His 9 Lives. If you live in Australia, it's available on YouTube for free.
Yeah.
If you don't live in Australia, find a VPN and change it to Australia. Because, I'm sorry, I don't know how else to watch it in other countries.
Yeah, it may be available for everyone on YouTube.
No, because I used a VPN once and I was looking at YouTube and it wasn't available.
Okay, well, and then even then, look, we're passing a lot of judgment on a film that hasn't come out. but as much as the Bill Murray one sucked, it seems to be, apart from the character designs, I feel like the characterizations maybe are a little bit better, except for Normal, who's terrible, and that random lady cat that's not Arlene.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
Actually, no, don't watch that one either. Just watch Garfield, His 9 Lives. I think it'll give you...
Watch Garfield and Friends. If you're in America, it's on Tubi for free.
Yeah.
That's how I watch it. I use a VPN.
Yeah.
Also, we're not sponsored by a VPN. We're not sponsored by Nord or anyone like that, unless they want to sponsor us.
Yeah, this podcast with 2 episodes and a 5-month gap between them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Sponsor us.
Yeah, and I think our final thoughts are Garfield is... We honestly barely scratched the surface with Garfield today. I am going to say with 100% certainty that Anastasia will want to do another follow-up episode. We'll probably look at the video games next. There's a whole
Absolutely. Just to give you a little bit of a taste of the video games, first of all, they're all kind of crap. Except for, I heard that Garfield's Nightmares is
Garfield's
good.
Nightmare on the DS, I have played. It was many years ago at this point, but the consensus is that one's sort of okay.
The rest are pretty crap.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. Other than
Garfield Kart, Garfield Lasagna Party,
Garfield's Fun Fest, Garfield Gets Real.
Yeah, there's like an unreleased... No, there's like a Japan exclusive Garfield game for like a really old console. Like it was like from like... I don't know what it was for. But yeah, so like, yeah, we can talk about those types of things. Yeah,
we can talk about the Garfield Dark Ride. But again, would recommend listening to the...
Yes, Defunct Land episode on that is very good.
Absolutely.
Hopefully you've learned a bit more about Garfield and truly begun to appreciate the effect that little orange cat has on the world. Like, obviously it's going to be shorter once we edit it, but we've been recording for an hour and 3 minutes, and really we've barely said anything. Like, we're going to have more to say. Anastasia's going to have more to say, and I'll have more annoying things to interject with, but I think the goal we're going to set ourselves for the new year is hopefully an episode a month. Ideally, we'd love to do it an episode every 2 weeks, but being that we both work and editing and research and writing, even when we speed run, it can take some time. We'll see, but we're gonna hopefully aim for an episode a month. So hopefully we'll have one out in January.
But thank you guys so much for listening. Remember to give us a follow if you want to hear more from us. Please, please, please. We are begging you. Please follow. We're going to have a little poll in the bottom below about what you guys think about the Garfield trailer and if you are going to be watching it in cinemas. I personally will not. So I guess because in this day and age you can only watch movies in cinema when in the cinema, I guess there's not going to be any other way.
That's a damn shame.
That I will be able to watch it.
Yeah, that's a shame. Well, I guess we'll just have to wait for it to come to VHS in about 12 months' time.
Absolutely. Oh, we're in Australia. It's going to take years.
Yeah, jeez.
Also, we'll have like a little Q&A type thing. Just your thoughts on the podcast. And if you have any nostalgic things that you guys think would be a good idea to
we'll happily
do an episode on.
We'll happily take some requests.
Absolutely.
We're not already out of ideas.
We do have ideas. We're not stumped. We just procrastinate.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was very busy with study.
Exactly. Well, thankfully our next episode has been written.
Yes.
That will, spoilers, that'll be on the Ratchet and Clank game series.
Woohoo!
So hopefully we should have that out soon, but remember to give us a follow, and a like, and a rating, but only if you're going to put 5 stars, otherwise you're a troll, and I hate you.
Yeah, and if you want to follow us on other platforms, I am not Garfield on Instagram, so that's not .garfield. where I share my little artsies, and I also have my Etsy shop. Ryan?
Yeah, and I am Ryan Makes Jokes on TikTok if you want to watch some bad stand-up clips.
Woohoo! Which I film.
Yeah.
And then you edit.
Terrifically, might I add.
Yes,
CapCut is
absolutely.
beautiful.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much again for listening, and we will catch you in the next one.
Thank you.